This is Average Sports.
By your average guys.
Eric.
And Ty. That would be so bad.
Yeah. This is Average Sports.
Your average sports.
Average Sports.
Thanks for tuning into another episode
You're
of
listening to Average Sports with your average guys.
Average Sports, average guys, Eric and Ty.
Like sands through the hourglass, Eric. It's unreal. Time is just kind of flying by. We still have no sports. Well, hardly any sports, but some are coming back.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode. It's Average Sports with your average guys. I'm Ty, and on the other end of the line is Eric.
I'm here.
There you go.
Living the dream.
That's right. We are safely practicing our social distance across town here. So we have Eric calling in from his home while I record here at my house. And we have a good one, though, still to talk about with sports. And as I said, some sports are starting to come back as of the second week of May. So that's pretty exciting. We'll get to that here in a moment. But let's kick it off, Eric, with our butthole in sports. And this is a little bit of a weird one. You came up with this, so tell us what's up.
We got a strange one. Ex-Louisville dance coach Todd Sharp invited a man that he did not know into his home last Sunday, a man named Samuel Phelps, 23, who then less than 24 hours later winds up dead in Todd Sharp's home. So currently, he's not considered a suspect or their foul play. It just seems a little strange that during a pandemic you invite a homeless man into your house, and then he winds up dead. I feel like we're going to see this story on 48 Hours at some point in time.
Very peculiar. You said dance coach, correct?
Yes, he was the Louisville Cardinal dance coach.
Okay. Well, I wonder how he's going to tiptoe around that situation.
Wow. Wow.
Had to. Okay. Korean baseball. Dude, have you seen any of these highlights? Have you watched a game? Korean baseball I'm into it.
I've only heard that they got the cutouts of people in the stands and stuff like that. And, I tuned in for about 5 minutes and then I was like, I don't know who these teams are. I have no vested interest. So it just instantly became background noise.
Sure.
And while it's kind of cool to have it back on, if I don't have a vested interest, I feel for me personally, it's going to be hard where when we started this, we're like, we just want sports. Like, we need it in our lives.
I would say it would be different if there was
if
there's more of a guarantee that we would get to watch the season, because we don't know that when the MLB starts or any professional league in the U.S. for that matter begins, will we want to continue watching that league or is it just this kind of scab over of here's some baseball, just watch it. So that aside, I think it's a great beta test for folks really across the world, I guess, to get that chance of what does a professional sport look like without a crowd, and just to see how the players interact and how it all unfolds. I mean, it's like a really upscale softball game is what I think. There's nobody going to the game and the players are there because they love to play the sport. So I think it's pretty fun to see. They do have cheerleaders out there on the sidelines, which is peculiar, but hey, we'll take it. And
that's the one thing baseball's always needed: cheerleaders, right?
Something. They have those intermission teams that come out there, the T-shirts
with the T-shirts and stuff. And then I lived in Florida, and so the Miami Marlins / Florida Marlins back then, they definitely had a full dance squad.
Sure, why not?
I actually knew some people that danced on that dance squad that I went to school with. So it was like a full cheerleader dance squad for them in Miami. But that also makes perfect sense for Miami. So.
Yeah. Well, there's some great highlights going around on Korean baseball, some dramatic bat flips, and seeing some older MLB players get a chance to play on the diamond again. So it's cool stuff. Worth checking out. Yeah, bat flips, man. You got to check it out. But let's digress, though, into the show. We do have a lot to cover here, even though there is a giant lack of sports. But UFC is also starting to happen again. Eric, what did you see?
Well, I didn't watch it. I'm definitely paying for it.
You got some results, though.
I do have some results for you. So I was excited to I did watch some highlights. I did not watch, or pay for pay-per-view for that. So,
Gotcha.
but what is really exciting is that we did finally have something come back that is a mainstream part of our society when things come up, boxing matches and UFC fights. So, Justin Guthrie, I think I'm saying his name right, defeated Tony Ferguson, was the main event. Beat him by TKO in round number 5. In the co-main event, Dominic Cruz lost to Henry Guedo in round number 2 by TKO. Then we had a heavyweight fight. I'm definitely not going to get this right. I'm going to say Francis beat Jairzinho.
Okay.
If you look up those names, I'm not going to be able to pronounce them. But he knocked him out in round 1, 20 seconds.
Ugh.
So that was a lot of fun. You can catch that highlight. Now they're definitely all up. But 20 seconds, it was very quick. The rest were a little bit longer, but that was certainly pretty exciting. You got to love those first round knockouts.
Yeah, indeed. It doesn't take a whole lot of your time, though, either. You get right back to what you were doing. It's just a sidebar. But I think we're looking for the distraction, and there's no sport better to distract us, I think, than baseball. It's our American pastime, right? Yeah, come on. Yeah. Well, the MLB did come to an agreement with the players. Yes, they're coming back this summer for sure? Or is it just like we're accepting? No? Okay, what's happening?
So owners approved the agreement. The MLBPA is being presented to it today as we're recording. I've been looking up to see if I can find any news on where they're at, what's going on. I can't find anything right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to come out here very shortly. However, there seems to be quite a bit of contention, and certainly one of the things that's going to get thrown out is the owners are wanting to do a 50-50 revenue split. The players are not for this, and they are harping back on an agreement that they came to with the owners back in March about a prorated salary based on how many games they play.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're not going to be, baseball's not going to be raking in the money this year with, 35 to 40% of the revenue comes from people coming to the games and spending money and tickets and stuff like that. Now, the players certainly aren't on board with that. They're also not on board with it because it is looked at as a salary cap, and they're the lone major sport in America that has no salary cap. Now, I'm going to read you a tweet from Doolittle. He is Sean Doolittle. He's a pitcher with the Nationals. And he just wrote, hey, bear with me, but what it feels like is that we've zoomed right past the most important aspect of any MLB restart plan: health protection for our players, families, staff, stadium workers, and the workforce that would require to resume the season. These are some of the things I'm going to be looking for in a proposal. And Chris Iannetta, who is one of the leaders for the MLBPA, he's on the executive board. He's catcher for the Yankees. He also said something very similar, that it's really important that we make sure that we're taking the proper safety precautions, not only for the players, but that we're also taking the safety precautions for the people that are going to be there, because there's still an intrinsic risk for the players that are going to be on the field. That's more of a direct quote from him.
Okay. Which is a very fair point, and that is exactly what any team should be looking, or league should be looking at, as they plan to actually get salvage any part of their season if they're looking to play this year, and what things look like even just for future seasons as we navigate through this. And so what I'm hearing is, or what I understand, is that the owners might just be really, their best interest is to get the season going. They are ready. Like, let's start this yesterday. And I get that.
Yeah,
but
because they're they're
hemorrhaging money,
like
and it's a business.
They're like any owner. All they care about is the revenue.
Sure.
There's the old Steinbrenners of the day that truly cared about winning, but we also know that Steinbrenner cared a whole lot about that money that his team was making.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what it comes down to, is that the owners are losing a lot of money, and that's what they care about.
Yeah.
And that seems to, that definitely seems to be the lead from, what I was reading and researching and kind of coming up with. Jeff Passan in particular, he's an MLB writer. He's on TV a lot, big reporter on the MLB. was talking that, the owners really passed this a lot due to financial reasons, and that's definitely their main motivator. There are other things to kind of look at, though, besides that. So, there are other vital points that we need to look at for this proposal that are in there. First and foremost, the expansion of playoff from 10 teams to 14. We've been hearing this for a little bit of time beyond just coronavirus pandemic going on, but this really seems to kind of be a catapult for them to push this a little bit and get some extra revenue for the middling teams right there. The other thing, too, is an 82-game season. Right. Down from the 162.
Yep.
The use of home stadiums in areas that have local and state government approval. I think that one will probably be fine. The so-called spring training is going to be a shortened version that will begin in June and start in July with no actual spring training games. A universal designated hitter. They've also been talking about this for a long time, too. This is the big one, and this is the one that there may be some contention points, and there's some pros and there's some cons. Based on, certain teams. I think there are two divisions in particular that really benefit from this, but geographical scheduling, in which teams will only play in-division opponents and interleague opponents in that same area. So, for example, the AL East and the NL East will essentially be one division. Then you have AL and NL Central, and then AL and NL West. Will be essentially the three divisions that they will divide.
Naturally, making the best effort as like social distancing, but still traveling, without bringing these teams to cross-contaminate as much, or just reducing that risk. Yeah, makes sense.
And then, if there is a city, so let's just take New York, for example, they may have a tough time getting past regulations or being able to start. So maybe the Yankees and the Mets aren't able to actually play games in New York, that they'll have to be down in Baltimore or DC if those, I don't know if those are hot spots. So may just be
sure. It has to be up to the local. And we're going to see a lot of that, actually, especially being a little closer to us. Chicago is going to have that same issue, that there's a good chance that Comiskey or Wrigley will not host a single game, including even the Bears. Yes, the NFL we've been talking about has, seemingly, we're going to start the season. There hasn't been any delays. We got the schedule out. We're good to go. I am calling it now that you're not going to see a Bears game happening, at least with a crowd, this year.
Good call out. You're probably right. They may have to move it up to Milwaukee for the Bears. That's about a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
They may have to put them up there, or they may just play in Soldier with no fans. So that's
they may.
Obviously possible too.
Absolutely.
And then 30-man rosters with a huge taxi squad that could be upwards of 50 players. They haven't really worked out how that's going to work or what that looks like for those players on the rosters, but those are some things that are on the table. And there are people that have openly talked about having conversations with Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Baseball, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. He's a big time person in the news right now for this, as well as Maryland Governor Larry Hogan has also been in the news a lot too. Those two have been pretty strict on kind of what's going on, but they would not actually give a deeper comment on that. So it just kind of depends on where we're at. That's kind of what has been proposed. The money is going to be a big issue. The players are obviously going to want theirs. With as I said, Chris Iannetta talked about the intrinsic risk of playing, being around the other players and their families, and some of these players have pre-existing conditions, and some of their family members have pre-existing conditions. So there's a lot to take into account here. And the one thing that certainly seems to be off the table is isolation away from families and just being with the team. No players and support.
No, it's going to be tough. Even under an abbreviated season, that'll be tough.
Yeah.
And not to make a bad pun here, but baseball will just have to play ball with the players, because if there's that demand of needing to make sure everyone has that peace of mind, along with the staff that will be required at each game, I mean, they're just going to need to make those amendments. Otherwise, they could generate a real health issue, and it'll get shut down real quick, and then we just don't have baseball at all, and we had a lot of wasted effort. So it's got to be done right. Yeah,
and one more thing before we moved on, I kind of touched on it there, but the divisions, the strength of schedule is going to be vastly different, and this certainly benefits some teams, especially the AL and NL Central teams. The teams at the top of those divisions are going to be heavily benefited by having or getting to play much weaker opponents, over that 82 games versus teams, for example, let's just take the AL and NL East, where you're having to play teams like the Nationals.